What's up, everyone? It's 1700 somewhere. I'm Athen.
I'm Tim.
So this is our first episode. Sorry about the intro. I'm working on getting a better one built, but so for right now, that's what we got. So yeah. So here we are with our first show. Wanted to get into talk about a couple of things. So there's lots to talk about this week, including the last week's tragedy, or from last weekend actually, on Sunday, that mass shooting there in Vegas.
Right.
So we're going to talk about a little bit about that and some other things about that, and then a couple other things we got to talk about. So it was like with that mass shooting there in Vegas, what was it, like something like 515 people wounded and 59 killed?
I believe 58.
58?
Yeah.
See, that's just crazy. Like I was, how I found out about it, I was actually out of town. I was in Reading at a wedding, and we'd just gotten back to Wi-Fi connection and all that stuff, and I was at our friend's house where we were staying, and I was going through Facebook, and it just saw a pop-up in one of the groups I'm in that was talking about mass shooting and everything like that. So went through, I was following it, shared a few things about it, and just even listening, seeing everything go down, there was a lot of confusion involved with it. It was kind of crazy. Like, all kinds of stuff. People were reporting all kinds of different shooters and all that stuff, and going on from that, there's a lot of different conspiracies about it too.
There is a lot of conspiracy theories. You've got people reporting multiple shooters.
Mm-hmm.
You got people claiming that he was framed. You got people claiming that it's a false flag event. You've got everything going on with this that you can think of.
It's like, from the first couple of days after it first happened, like some of the biggest ones that I'd heard were like a lot of people, before they released all the information about the guns that he had inside of his room and everything like that, people were talking about doing a lot of debating over what kind of guns were being used. A lot of people were thinking at first it was like an M60 or a 249 and all that stuff, and people arguing about that, saying yes it is, no it's not, and it turns out that it wasn't at all. There's just a couple, I think they were saying he had some AK style weapons. I think they said there was one fully automatic AK-47 that he had, but there were some other AK style weapons, and there was AR style weapons, and what he was using to make it fully automatic was a bump stock, and now you have
which is possible.
Yeah. I mean, especially if you listen to some of the audio of the guns. I have an audio clip here that I'm going to play. Of one of the gunfires, you could actually hear a difference in the fire rate. You can hear it kind of travel up and then travel down and everything like that. So real quick, I'm going to play that. It was you could hear a real variation in the fire rate, which sounds like it would be something like a bump stock or one of those crank things and all that stuff. So, and then it's another one of the conspiracies about it, like you mentioned, is with how quickly after everything happened, because it was the next morning, people were already out talking about gun control and all that stuff, and that's one of the conspiracies about it. It's it was a false flag type thing. To get people rallied behind more gun control,
less resistance to disarming the Americans.
Yep,
is kind of one of the number one things when it comes to that false flag type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, excuse me. So it's there's that, and it's a lot of things that go around the whole false flag. Is people are saying that there were multiple shooters, because they also recently released pictures of Stephen Paddock, the shooter. They released pictures of the crime scene afterwards, where he killed himself and everything like that. And there's a lot of people talking about all of that. Things that people saying is in the picture, the blood and all that stuff. You can see some brass casings from the actual firing of the weapon that killed all the people. Sitting on top of blood, and people were well, how did that end up there? If he killed himself after all the fighting, the blood shouldn't be underneath the casing so easily. But also, it was on carpet, so the blood was soaked in and went underneath the casing. So all that stuff, and it just totally lost track of where I was at.
Well, let's talk about the fact that. Well, I should say it's a fact. There's reports that technically his car had left the parking garage of that motel or that casino.
Mm-hmm.
During the time that his car had left the garage, his own key card was used to enter his room.
See,
so how is a man supposed to be in two places at once?
I don't know. See, did you the car that you're talking about that you're saying that left the garage and all that stuff? Was that what kind of car was that?
I don't know.
Because the night when it happened and all that stuff, and I was watching the feed of basically people there were in the group that I was in. I was watching it all take place. There were a bunch of people that were actually listening to scanners, the scanner traffic and all that stuff, and reporting as they heard stuff. And they were saying that they were looking for a late model black Audi. That and they were saying that had a possible VBIED in it, and he did have ingredients to make bombs inside his room. Plus, at one of his houses and all that stuff, they had ingredients for bombs and all that.
I heard he had tannerite.
Tannerite, okay,
which is still an explosive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I mean, and if you have enough of it, it can make a mess.
And I heard he was actually aiming. They say that they think he was aiming towards his car. I believe it was his car parked outside the concert area in some vicinity, to where they thought he was trying to shoot at that as well, as well as obviously shooting into the crowd. We don't know for sure, but that's one of the reports I heard.
Huh. See, I hadn't heard anything about that. So, and then there's also more with that. Is like people, including the whole thing with saying there's multiple shooters, saying that all the conspiracy theories. I just saw a video a little bit ago of someone saying that they thought they saw him in, I think it was like New Orleans. There's a place,
right?
Atlantic City. That's where it's at.
Atlantic City, and there's in a casino where he's sitting at a table gambling.
Yep.
And it said September 6th on the document that the guy was holding up in the camera view, and it looked just like him.
October 6th.
October 6th.
I think it was October 6th.
October 6th.
So and he's showing this guy, and it looks just like Stephen Paddock. I mean, very similar, but it's like
look pretty close to Stephen Paddock.
Is like people are going to argue, and they have, because I shared it around and all that stuff. People are going to argue that hey, there's doppelgangers. There are people that look like other people and stuff, which is very true. And since this dude is so kind of big right now, I guess you'd call it. There's going to be people looking for that. There's going to be people trying to find it. So,
but let's talk about a motive. I mean, I haven't heard anything that would explain any sort of a motive that the guy would have had to do something like this.
Excuse me again. Well, I have seen. There's and it's all speculations. There's people speculating on lots of things. People throwing out ideas on motive, they went and put some out there, maybe, because his fiance or wife or girlfriend or whatever, as I still haven't really seen anything about anyone having any contact with her or hearing anything from her or anything like that. She's still kind of missing. So it's some people have speculated that maybe she bounced out on him and all that stuff, and he just snapped and decided that he was just going to kill a bunch of people.
Well, I read somewhere that they had actually interviewed her. And
really?
What she had said is that he had sent her money to go visit, I guess, her family in, I believe, the Philippines. And he had also wired her $100,000 to buy a house there.
Okay.
And her concerns was that the guy was going to break up with her. But she was stating that she had no idea that this guy was capable of violence or anything like that.
See, and that's kind of a general report, because even they're saying things from his brother. It's like his brother's saying that he didn't even know that he had all these guns, to his imagination, or to as far as he knew, He only had like a couple handguns and all that stuff, and dude had never done anything. He had like a speeding ticket or something like that recently. It's like, and this guy's a multi-millionaire freaking accountant, and uh, also was in real estate and all that stuff. He had a house in Reno and a house in Vegas and everything like that.
Right.
So,
and that he had actually made plans to, like, basically planning as if he had a future
mm-hmm.
with his gambling and all this stuff. I read I can't remember the exact details, but that he had actually, he made no signs of actually like ending his life.
Mm-hmm.
He was actually more pointing towards his future, living free and being what he was, as far as like the gambling and using a card, the casino cards where you put them in the machine and you can keep your balance on that.
Okay, yeah, it's like the Players Club or something.
Yeah,
like
that. As if he had basically no intention of dying. So.
Oh. See, I'd read something that he was on some sort of psychotropic drug, like some sort of medicine. I haven't heard anything about what it was or anything like that. But I read an article someone wrote. Again, it's speculation and everything like that. But this person was writing an article saying, he thinks he knows, what could have caused this and all that stuff because he's seen a situation like this before. I guess, this guy, his personal experience was with his wife, and she got on a sort of depression medicine that, in excuse me, in rare cases, could cause someone to have like severe suicidal or homicidal breaks. And it's like, and there are other shootings that have happened. Actually, even in that time, there was a school shooting. I can't remember which one it was, where the kid was on this same medication and all that stuff.
Which could be you could look at that in two different ways.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, these people are disturbed. They
Mm-hmm.
need this medication to do things, or is it the actual medication
this
that's causing them to do it?
This person's point is like, the people themselves aren't really disturbed, because it's like he said the way this guy was describing the case was his wife, or at the time it was his girlfriend. She happens to be, for whatever reason, she's like, whenever it says, there's a situation that says, in rare cases, it always seems to apply with her. So for any medications, when it says in rare cases this could happen, it always kind of applies to her. And her psychotic break happened over months. It was just kind of like a slow type of thing until at one point she realized she was going to end up doing something she didn't want to do. So she checked herself into a psych ward and all that stuff. And she was talking with them and all that stuff. And from the story, I guess, like, she even got to the point, like, what Manson did and all that stuff. I think it was Manson. Yeah, Manson. It was like, while she was talking to the psychiatrist, she'd actually convinced them that going on a killing spree would have been a good idea for whatever reason, kind of thing. It's like, so it just, this medication put her into some weird psychotic break where, if she hadn't checked herself into the psych ward, she would have probably went and killed a bunch of people. They took her off that medication and the issue stopped. So it's like, and there's other cases as far as like medication stuff like that causing this type of thing with people. So I mean, it's really feasible that could be something like this to happen with dude. It's like just a normal guy, but he ended up getting the wrong medication and just kind of got into a slow, psychotic break. Because this guy's story was saying that his wife was actually going through the process of planning some sort of something over time, and it's like, nobody realized what she was doing. And I guess he was saying that she had a lot of background in forensics and all that stuff, and if she wanted to do like a mass killing spree, and he was saying what she wanted to do was kill people that were bad people. So, and it's like one at a time, one by one, just kind of kill people and get rid of them. So I was like, she could have went and killed a whole bunch of people and nobody would have had any idea.
Sort of like the TV show.
Mm-hmm.
The guy, the mass murderer guy.
Oh, Dexter?
Dexter.
Yep.
Yes.
I was
Only one after bad people, he says.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it would have been something similar to that. So, but it's like there's a lot of speculation involved with this. I mean, there's a lot of wondering. There's a lot of conspiracy theories, like just like with the picture of dude dead and all that stuff. They say in one picture he has a 13 tattoo on his neck. It's like I get what people are doing. I get what people are saying. If you zoom in on that picture and you see it, yeah, it does look like a 13, but he's a 64-year-old multimillionaire who's in like accounting and all that stuff. He's not going to have a 13 tattooed on his neck, and
at least none of the pictures that they showed on TV showed his 13.
Yeah,
showed the 13.
So, and it's like, well, there's that one. It shows him. It's like he's sitting at a table or something like that, and his eyes are closed and everything like that. It's like zoomed out. It just kind of looks like, you can't really see anything. But if you zoom in really close to it, you can. It actually looks like a 13. It's a really horrible 13, but it's like, and that's definitely just like wrinkles and stuff like that. Oh. So, but in the picture, showing the picture of him, the crime scene picture, like, oh, there's no 13 there. So people are trying to attribute that to a second shooter. So like, him being a patsy, kind of thing. Like, it was set up so that he would take the fall for the shooting and everything like that. So there was a second shooter that probably killed the guy, at the beginning of everything, and then went and, shot for 15 minutes and then decided he was going to bounce out, leaving dude dead, and everything falls on him. There's lots of things about it, but, I mean, we'll find out in a matter of time about it all. So,
well, and I also heard something about the actual owners of the casino making interesting plans prior to the shooting.
Say that one more time.
I heard something about the owners of the Mandalay Bay casino making certain arrangements or plans financially prior to the shooting. That were out of ordinary. I wish I could give you a little more update on that, but
I haven't heard anything about that.
But there's also the option, maybe this guy was demonly possessed. Who knows?
Like I said, there's lots of stuff, and it's all going to come out over time. We'll find out. In general, I mean, as much as we can. So, at some point, it'll probably take a while. I mean, there's still the video that, because Stephen Paddock and all that stuff, he actually had cameras in his room filming himself stuff. I guess he actually had a camera on a peephole of his room, and there were cameras in the hallway. So, it's like, once all that stuff gets gone through and all that, gets looked at and everything like that, and they release it to the public, that's going to determine 100%.
Do you think they're actually going to release that to the public? Because I don't think they are.
I think they will. I honestly think they will at some point, because, I mean, the public's been screaming they want to know stuff, and it's like, and that's why those photos got leaked, probably just because there was, the crime scene pictures, those weren't like actually legitimately released, those were leaked. So it's probably a cop or something like that works with it all and decided that, hey, people want to know something. People are throwing all these conspiracy theories out there. Let's just give them some sort of proof to quiet everything down. So I think they will release that footage. I mean, they already have some body cam footage of it released, but it's all from outside. So. And then, excuse me again. And then on with that, there's another thing about this whole situation that I kind of wanted to talk about. There's an Instagram dude named Dan Bilzerian. I don't even know how to pronounce his name. I don't even really like him that much. He is one of those tactical kind of people and all that stuff. He's huge on Instagram. He's a professional poker player and all that stuff. Well, during the shootings and everything like that, he actually
attempted to ask a cop for a gun.
There was that part, but there was also the part like when it first started and everything went down. he was running from everything and all that stuff. He was running away to go get a gun, as he was saying. There been a lot of people kind of arguing back and forth over it, but he's saying he was going to get a gun. And honestly, my whole issue with this isn't that he decided to run away, because a lot of people have take issue because he ran away from the sound of gunfire, and it's like,
who wouldn't run away?
There's a lot of people.
If you have no way of defending yourself,
there's a lot of people who wouldn't know. There's Marines and there were veterans and all that stuff that didn't run.
Well, they probably would have done something to get themselves covered.
A lot of them were actually acting as cover for other people.
Then those are pretty much heroes.
Yeah. And it's like, and Dan Bilzerian, he tries to act like he's some high-speed operator and all that stuff, where he did go to Bud's. Last I heard, it's like he went to Bud's and he actually watched out a couple times. I heard once someone saying that he was like 2 days away from graduating Bud's, which is really not a combat course. That's kind of making sure that you're mentally and physically capable of being a SEAL. Really is what SEALs or the Buds is about. But he'd gone to Buds a couple times and he failed out a couple times. So he is a Navy vet and all that stuff. So, but even still, my issue with the whole situation isn't that he ran away, because, I mean, he's not a combat vet. He doesn't have any combat experience and all that stuff. I mean, he's a glorified freaking Instagram star and all that stuff. So he's just doing what he wants, doing whatever. What my issue with it is he doesn't have the ability to stay in, like he was saying during the whole thing. He walked past or was standing next to someone who got shot in the face or shot in the head. Like he was, actually I've got audio clip of that. I'll play that in a second. But it's like, so there's that. He walked right past someone who got shot in the head, and he doesn't have time to be able to help that person or make sure, he helps protect someone else, but he has time to film. So he has time to pull out his camera and make a video. And the audio clip I'm about to play right here, 22 seconds long, is actually the first video that he filmed. And this is my issue with the whole situation. So we're going to go ahead and play that real quick.
Holy fuck, this girl just got shot in the fucking head. It's so fucking crazy. So I had to go grab a gun. I'm fucking headed back. Fucking so crazy. Some kind of mass shooting. Fucking guy had a heavy caliber weapon for sure. Saw a girl fucking get shot in the face right next to me. Her brain's fucking hanging out. Stupid ass me didn't bring a gun.
So that's where my issue is. It's like, that's not the time to sit there and start filming and trying to put on your freaking Instagram.
Make it about yourself.
Yeah, that's all for freaking, publicity and everything like that. So that's where my issue comes from. It's like, and then there were lots of other people, like, there was a Medal of Honor recipient Marine, darn it, right now I seem to have forgotten his first name, but his last name was Myers. Received a Medal of Honor, or Medal of Honor recipient that called him out on Twitter. All that stuff. He called him out, basically calling him a coward and everything like that for his actions that evening. And then Dan Bilzerian decided he was going to respond back and called the Marine a retard. And there's been some other things that popped up, like the Marine responded back to him after dude called him a retard. But it's like, yeah, it's just people trying to get, well, not the Marine, but Dan Bilzerian. He's just trying to freaking push his fame along. And I think he's realizing that he kind of buried himself, kind of shot himself in the foot through this entire situation, because I've been seeing more and more, footage and stuff like that kind of popping up, kind of trying to show, hey, I'm helping, which that's another funny part. They've got have you seen the meme? Oh, so there's a meme of, it's the one guy from, like whenever people change their profile pictures, you've always got that meme where it's like, I'm helping the guy from The Simpsons. They'll put like a impose of a flag over his face and goes, I'm helping. Sure. Well, they did the same thing with this, but it's Dan Bilzerian's face on it. It's like, I'm helping. So, but there is also, like you were talking about a little bit ago, there's the video clip where it shows Dan Bilzerian as he's running away. He goes up and hides behind a cement barrier, and there are a couple cops that come by, and he actually asked one of the officers if he could have looked like he was asking the officer if he could have the rifle, and the officer was like, "Fuck you, get away from me." I don't know, you're fucking, you know you're being stupid right now, right?
It's basically what it sounded like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, basically.
So that was all kind of funny, but yeah.
Let me ask you this: what would you do if you were in that crowd and that shit started going down?
Honestly, I have no idea. I honestly, I could. I'm not a combat vet either. I don't have any.
You're not a combat vet, but you do have, you have military background.
Well,
you have Navy background.
Yeah, I have that stuff, and it's like, and we're.
What would your response be to the sounds of the gunfire?
I honestly, I couldn't say. I don't know. I honestly, I really have no idea how I read. That's one of those situations where you can say that you do one thing,
right,
having never been in the situation, not all that stuff. But
and for me, I don't have a military background.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a Navy background. I have nothing like that.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably be in just as much shock as most of those people that you can see. In a lot, there's a lot of videos out there of the real time situation where it's happening,
mm-hmm.
where you can hear the gunfire, you see a bunch of people ducking down, you see one or two or three people standing up, kind of looking around,
mm-hmm.
and even one clip I saw a guy just kind of flipping off
the
building. The dude, and then also the gunfire starts again, and he ducks down.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's a pretty shitty situation when you really don't have any escape.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you're in a condensed area of that many people, and the gunfire is going off like that.
Mm-hmm.
You really don't have that kind of an escape route. You're either ducking down, praying for the best, or when you do get the chance to run, you run like hell.
Exactly. And in most cases in that situation, most people probably had absolutely no idea where the gunfire was coming from.
Right.
So
that was a lot of. I think that was a lot of it. I think
mm-hmm.
a lot of people could hear it, but they couldn't tell if it was somebody down on the ground
mm-hmm.
or if it was. Eventually, I think a lot of them figured out it was apparently somebody up in the fourth floor or whatever story.
Mm-hmm.
Second.
32nd floor.
32nd floor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Excuse me again. Darn it. So, no, a lot of people, a lot of people had absolutely no idea where the gunfire was coming from. All they knew is they were being shot at. So, given a situation like that, it's your reactions are going to immediately just be instinct and just kind of based off your general fight or flight type thing. It's like...
Right. Any training you have is definitely going to kick in.
I'm sure of that. Yeah,
it's
going to be an automatic response. So it's like you can say, yeah, I would, run for the closest cover, or I would do this, I'd do that, whatever. Who knows? Unless you've actually been in that situation and know for a fact that's what you do.
Right.
That's just you saying that's what you would do. It's like, I will have to say, towards the beginning of the entire thing when it happened, because there's the video of with Jason Aldean on stage, and he's in one song and he's getting to the end of the song, and there was some gunfire that started off right then that was probably a dude shooting out the windows at that point, because it was just a couple small bursts of gunfire, and then it stopped for a few seconds. Jason Aldean goes into another song and it's kind of starting to go, and then the gunfire just kicks off and it starts bucking, and then you see in the middle,
you see him bolt
in the middle of the set. Jason Aldean turned around and just bolted off stage.
Yeah.
Me, I would have probably clued into that, thinking, okay, something's
right.
wrong. Dude just ran off stage.
Yeah, right.
And if I'm hearing that noise, then I'm also going to be because in that video clip, you can see, didn't seem like a single person had any idea.
Right. They were confused. They were confused.
Yeah. And
they didn't know if this was part of the show. Was this fireworks?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of them just didn't know.
Yeah.
I mean, who would expect something like that?
And nobody would. It's not something that you would expect to have happen, honestly. Because it just, hearing about it when I did, it was really crazy. But right now, it is time for us to go to a commercial break. So we'll do that, and we'll be back here in a couple minutes.
You want to know why, don't you? Why I picked you as the new runner?
Germans took the northern tip. They're right there.
I heard this story. His Roman legion was stuck way out on the plain, stranded. Wave after wave, the Huns came in, pounding them with everything they had. Drove a few of them boys mad after a while.
Hey, Bulldog here. I realize that you have plenty of options when it comes to veteran apparel, but the only way you're going to truly know which one you like and which one feels best for you is if you check them all out. So I'm asking you, go to threatcon5clothing.com and check out our wide variety of hats, hoodies, stickers, and of course t-shirts. That's www.threatcon5clothing.com. American made, combat veteran approved. And don't forget, wear the grenade.
All right, and we're back. So, in case you didn't know, I know there was a couple commercials there because the commercials are more set up for video as opposed to radio. So, one of the commercials there was actually a preview for a movie. It looks like it'll be a pretty good movie. And then there were a couple previews there for some shows that are on Vet Syndicate Radio, or Vet Radio Syndicate, rather. My bad. And then I can't remember. I only watched the video itself once, so I can't remember everything about it. So now we're gonna move on a little bit. So we just finished talking about Dan Bilzerian and then all that stuff. I suppose aside from the guy who actually did the shooting himself, you'd call that dude like douchebag of the week, right?
Yeah,
he's kind of your douche nozzle
if he's
of the
guilty.
century.
If he's guilty,
Yeah.
we'll never find out for sure.
True.
I don't believe. I don't know. Maybe we will. Maybe we won't.
So, but we want
Yeah, definitely. Somebody was a douchebag in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, I think, my opinion, I think Dan Bilzerian is he's got a high level douchebaggery going on for that situation. So, and going on from that, I want to cover, some awesomeness. I mentioned a little bit ago when, veterans, there were combat veterans. There was one, his story is actually kind of blowing up on Facebook and everything like that. Combat veteran. Well, actually, I don't even think he was a combat veteran. I think he may have been kind of early in the military. But he was Army Cav Scout, I'm pretty sure what he was. And it's kind of blown up. He is there with a girl that he'd only met, basically
I
at
heard
the
that
beginning
story.
of the concert.
Yep.
And when the gunfire started happening, he, actually tackled her to the ground and covered her.
Right.
And listening to recounts of people who were there, that was happening a lot with a lot of people. There were a lot of guys that were, taking their women, throwing them on the ground, and, covering them. There was
Yep.
There was the other story. This dude's gonna get the other award of, just freaking awesome person of the week. We gotta come up for a title with that. But
hero.
Hero. Well, we can't really say hero, but we'll figure something like that.
Yeah.
Badass. We'll just call him Badass of the week for now until we can come up with something better. But there was a Marine that was there that actually, when everything started going down, he actually went and he stole a truck. It was a company truck. There was like a construction company or something like that, or porta potties or something for the event. He stole a truck and then started loading people into it and driving them to the hospital. I think he made a total of like 5 or 6 trips or something like that.
Really?
Yeah. Just during all this, they set up a temporary like hospital because you realize there was no like immediate response people
Right.
there for a minute. There was no EMS, just based off of the people that were there. So, you have people,
And plus, you got the chaos of the whole
Yep.
event.
So-
even just for EMTs to be able to find the victims,
Mhm.
I mean, there was just so many people in one tight area.
Yep.
That's just, I mean, that's pretty heroic for a guy to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, to run people to the hospital.
I guess some of the people there that had more like training and like more medical knowledge or whatever, they set up like a small like triage area that was kind of out of the danger area for the most part, and they're trying to help people, trying to triage them, which basically means figuring out who's the worst wounded. It's like who's going to make it, who's not, who needs to get to the hospital right now, this kind of thing, who needs what, and all that. So, and this dude that stole the truck was, going up to the spot where they did that and loading people up in the truck and then, taking off.
Right.
So take off to the hospital and then come back to the same spot, load more. And afterwards, the cop or the guy who he stole the truck was from was like, I don't care about anything. I just want the keys back and everything's good. We're all good. So it's like, dude, he did what he had to. And in that situation, if, dude's going to get pissed off about someone stealing his truck for that situation.
For saving lives?
Yeah.
Right.
And it's like, but yeah, there are a lot of people who stood out through that entire situation. A lot of people that, went above and beyond what, would have or should have been expected from them. So, and, you see that recurring whenever there's an incident like this. There's always going to be those people who, just kind of go above and beyond. Not even military or first responders, just normal everyday people that it's kind of unites everything. So, sadly, I don't know. I think this is going to help to divide us more, though, just because I think that's just, if that wasn't, a conspiracy type agenda for this entire situation, it's going to end up like that. This entire thing is going to be used as an excuse to go after guns, and there's lots of people who aren't going to go for that very well.
And really, what is it, Second Amendment?
Mm-hmm.
The reason that is there is to protect us from like a dictatorship.
Yeah.
From like a Hitler scenario, where Hitler disarmed all the people because they had no defense, and look at how many Jews were murdered because of it.
Yeah. Well,
they had no defense.
You're right. That is
really the main objective of that Second Amendment.
That you are absolutely correct. Yeah, it's
to prevent that,
so that we can defend. We have the ability to defend our rights and our freedoms from any threat to those rights and freedoms.
So the quickest way to take that away from us is to number one, divide the people. You're going to get as many people supportive of it as possible by doing situations maybe such as this.
So that's kind of
I'm not stating what I believe. I'm just stating what I've heard and certain sides of what I've heard.
It would be nearly impossible to get the Second Amendment, get rid of the Second Amendment, because that's kind of that's the beauty of the situation. So your Bill of Rights and all that stuff, which would be the first 10 Amendments for the Constitution.
10
right?
Commandments.
Yeah, I almost said 10 Commandments. The first 10 Amendments would be your Bill of Rights, right? And the purpose of those is, I was talking to someone last night about this. It's like those are kind of what America is. That's that is America. That's what we were founded on. That's what we're based on, right? And it's all of those 10 amendments. They are there in place to establish America and establish our freedoms and all that stuff, right? So, and in order for any of those to be changed, I believe it's something like it has to have votes from 30 states as a yes to remove it. So, it would have to have a majority vote in America to remove that particular amendment. So what we're looking at is less not them taking away the Second Amendment, because that would be damn near impossible to do.
I don't think it's that. I don't think it's that impossible for them to do.
It is possible to be done, but just going off of, they would have to get a majority vote in the country
which would be hard
get rid of it. Would be damn near impossible to do, because there's at least close to equal amounts of either side,
unless multiple events like this continue to occur.
And it turns enough people who at this point are supporters of it. Yes, but I still don't even think then, because it like I said, it's not an easy task to get any of those changed or any of those amended. So, I mean, it's what I see is more and more just regulations, things that they can do without changing the Constitution.
So they could be slowly working their way towards it.
But I mean, they'll be able to do regulations. They can say, they can ban the bump stocks. They can ban cranks. They can, ban being able to have.
And in reality, I don't know how many Americans own the bump stocks. I don't know how many people have the cranks. I've never even heard of them until you start discussing them. I've heard of the bump stocks. I haven't heard of the cranks. But I mean, it's not something we use for hunting.
Well, no, their only purpose for existing is, collectors, people just for fun, really, right. Just to go out and shoot
recreation.
Them. So, I mean, one could make the argument that it fits under the Second Amendment because we need to have the ability to have weapons, of the same type or, classification or whatever as the government has, because as you're saying, that's really the reason for the Second Amendment, to be able to defend ourselves against a corrupt government or anyone or anything that wants to take our freedoms, right?
Right.
So, what was I going to say? So I could see the argument being used that those exist, as per that, but really, the only real true reason that they exist is, for people to have fun. Is like I could understand if people wanted to ban those, but at the same point, I could also understand why people are going to fight against it. So it's just kind of like a whole can of worms type thing. It's like, and another reason why I don't believe the Second Amendment isn't going anywhere is because the Second Amendment has a lot to do with why America is seen as like a power. Why there's absolutely no chance that there's any country or anything like that that'll even consider invading America or, anything like that. Because the guns in America, there's, 300 million weapons dispersed amongst 100 million people. It's like, so if there was attempt at an invasion on America, if, and that's a big if.
Hopefully. Everybody will come together.
Well, they would, because if there was an invasion on America, it's like the way you look at it, it's like, so you have really three different options of what you can do. You can try to come in from the north or south through Canada or Mexico, or you can hit it from either side, either coast, or both coasts at the same time, or you can use a nuclear weapon. So the nuclear weapon probably isn't going to happen because that would be the end of the planet. Generally, if any country decided they were going to use a nuclear weapon, right?
Maybe not. It could be a false flag event.
Well, if there was a nuclear weapon used, if any other country used a nuclear weapon on America,
or they could knock out the power grid and blame it on a different country or nuclear warhead. I mean, they could blame it on that. How are we going to say, "Oh no, you're wrong," when we're out without power?
But at the same point, it's like they would still be able to understand if the power grid got knocked out because of EMP, then it's an attack of some sort, and not just any average Joe Smo is going to be able to get a military grade EMP. So it's got to be, another country actually attacking.
I think they're capable of it, and I think they're capable of doing that, as well as blaming it on, say, North Korea.
Like North Korea.
How hard would it to? Okay, let me ask you this: if let's say we're sitting here and all of a sudden the power goes out,
Mm-hmm.
we have nothing for weeks,
Mm-hmm.
right? So whatever broadcast we get from any radio we have, are we going to believe it? Probably. Most people are going to believe it.
Mm-hmm.
So how easy is it for them to do that?
For who's them though?
Them, the people that would actually do it.
Well, like I was saying, being able to acquire and all that stuff of military weapons grade EMP. That's not just.
It doesn't have to
that'd
be a
be
military
like just-
weapon.
Well, but in order to
doesn't
knock
have
out
to
an entire power grid, unless you're actually going in order to knock out an entire power grid like that, it would have to be done by EMP, unless someone went in and sabotaged like power plants and all that stuff, and then there would be.
There's been recent reports of the potential of cyber attacks that could actually knock out the power grid.
Well, yeah, but there would be knowledge of that. So it's like if there was a cyber attack to do it going on, there are a lot of hacker groups and all that stuff that could do that. But, they wouldn't be able to say, yeah, you were hit by an EMP because not us necessarily, everyone, but the government would know. And unless the government wanted to pin the tail on North Korea,
Which is what
they may or may not,
happened.
but that's going into a whole other can of worms and all that stuff. But what my whole point was, I don't even remember what the point was. Oh, so a nuclear attack is unlikely because if there was a nuclear attack on America,
I believe a nuclear attack is unlikely.
A nuclear attack
Myself,
would just
yeah.
end the planet, right? So, and then an attack from north or south, an actual land invasion through Canada or Mexico means you would either have to be allied with or you'd have to defeat Canada and or Mexico.
Right.
So. Not a lot of like.
I'm not trying to contradict myself. I think I just did, maybe, but I do believe it's possible that this could happen. To where we don't know, we don't know where it came from. I believe it could happen.
Unless it was a hacker attack, and it would take a little while for us to figure out, how it got hacked and how it happened. That's the only way that would be able to happen, and we don't know how it happened, but we would know that it wasn't an EMP attack. We would know that it wasn't a nuclear attack.
How would you know if you had no power to watch TV, no power to watch,
as far
listen to the radio?
As far as your typical...
Where are you going to get this knowledge from?
As far as your typical person living in America, it doesn't really matter whether or not we know it was an EMP or whatever. We're not the government going on to launch a counterattack. If anything, we'd be waiting to defend and all that stuff. So none of that really matters. And there's lots of things that you could have that would do it. If you have a normal crank radio, which is very common in a lot of people's kits, that right there would suffice because the crank radio isn't solid state. It's, none of all that. It's actual, real electrical components and isn't always energized. So if there was an EMP or any type of attack like that, your crank radio is not going to be fried. If you use the cranking and all that stuff to get it going, you can listen to the radio because they would be able to do radio broadcasts. There would be radio broadcasts because you have, same as your emergency system broadcasts and all that stuff. They would be doing broadcasts.
And you're going to believe what you hear.
Yeah. So
exactly. That's the point.
And exactly, it's like, so if it were an EMP or nuclear attack, in that situation, and you're listening to those emergency broadcasts, it's going to say nuclear EMP attack or a cyber attack. So,
and you're going to believe it.
Yeah.
But are you sure you can't? That's
for the most part, yeah.
I don't know. I question it.
See, there's no reason for the government to do it. The government itself has nothing to gain by doing that kind of thing.
Are you sure?
Yeah. What would they have to gain? There's nothing.
Everything.
No, there's nothing. There's nothing for the government to gain in that situation. Not a single bit of. There's no benefit to it because it would be disrupting the infrastructure of America. It would be disrupting all kinds of stuff. It would put America back because
Exactly. More controllable.
but that's not
Easily
what that's not what would be. Well, no, that's not what would be wanted.
by us.
No, even by the government, they wouldn't want to do that because at that point, it puts us to a position where we're vulnerable to other people as well. So, because what the whole point that I was getting to is that's why America.
Do you think our government is? Do you really think that the best interests of our government are for us?
No,
you
not
really
necessarily. Not necessarily in that sense. We're taking things in a whole other direction, dude. But even with that, as like, no, not specifically. It's not us. But what I'm saying is, with all that, there's absolutely no benefit to the country to do that. There's none.
Of course, there's not.
There's no benefit. There's no benefit for
to
the country.
Civilians?
No, for the country itself, the federal government. There is absolutely no benefit to the country to do that kind of thing to our citizens as a whole.
Except for maybe a one world order?
But that would be the entire country, like the United Nations going in and trying to do something like that. But
UN. Blue helmets.
Yes, but if
You don't
America,
think that would happen? You don't think there's a possibility that could happen? Some major catastrophe happens
not really,
in the US
because
you don't think you would see UN soldiers?
not really, probably not. I mean, if there was, say, a nuclear attack or something like that, maybe. But even then, no.
What if it was a simulated nuclear attack?
See, but then we're getting into semantics. You wouldn't be able to simulate a nuclear attack. You wouldn't be able to do it.
Okay.
Because it just wouldn't be able to happen.
I love this guy, and I love what he has to say, and I hope he's right.
So, as like that's a lot of these conspiracy theories, like that kind of stuff. A simulated nuclear attack is not possible. They wouldn't be able to simulate a nuclear attack because you would be able to know whether or not there was or there wasn't a nuclear attack.
How?
Because first of all, you have a freaking mushroom cloud and you have a huge explosion.
Boom! You have no power. What are you gonna?
Well, if you're in an area that's going to be affected, close enough to the explosion, it's going to be affected as far as the EMP burst from a nuclear weapon. You're going to be within a range to know that a nuclear bomb just went off.
How, like standing outside, you're going to see it?
Yeah.
You really think you're going to be able to see that much?
If there's a nuclear explosion, you will be able to see it.
What if it happened over Montana? Are you going to see it?
But we wouldn't
here.
Probably, you may not be able to see the explosion. I guarantee you'd probably see the mushroom cloud.
What if it was 40 miles above?
But at the same point,
could that not knock out our power grid?
Not the entire power grid, though. It would knock out a section of it. It's not going to knock out the entire power grid over the United States because they did this cool thing. They have different sections. That's why it's called a grid. So you'll have areas that supply to like the eastern section. You'll have areas that supply to here. You'll have areas that supply to here. So you set off a nuclear attack, and that power grid is going to drop the infrastructure in that region. But there's going to be other parts of the country that still have power and everything going. So, but if you're in the area of it to be affected by the EMP burst from the nuclear weapon, you're going to know, obviously, a nuclear weapon is happening. It's like there's no way to simulate a nuclear attack. It's like, and even still, afterwards, even if one nuclear bomb did take out the entire, electrical infrastructure of the country, you would know pretty shorthand whether or not it was a nuclear attack, because there will be evidence and there will be,
What good is it to know it's a nuclear attack if it is?
To know that you just got bombed and all that.
You're screwed.
Yes and no, but it's like there's not going to be any false flag attacks. It's an actual nuclear attack. The country itself isn't going to attack itself in that manner.
No, I don't think there's going to be any fake false flag attacks that are actually going to be nuclear attacks. What I think is there's a possibility of power outages blamed on nuclear attacks, to where a large amount of people are going to believe that.
It could, but there's no. Again, there's. If you're saying this is something that the government is doing, with some sort of agenda, there's no gain from it. There's no positive gain unless the wrong person gets into office, and it's going to be a whole.
There is a gain. There is a gain for a new world order.
Okay, but that would do with specific people, the George Soros and the Rothschilds and all that stuff. That would have to do with them taking power and them doing things, and that's a whole other can of worms. And we're just about out of time. So don't mind this guy. It's already been 1700 for him. I have a birthday party to go to in a few minutes, so I haven't been drinking. So, but
me either. I don't know what you're talking about.
So anyway, this is Athen and this is Tim. We're gonna go ahead and head out. If you would like to join the conversation with us, please go ahead and check us out on Facebook, our Facebook page. It's the Facebook page is actually AL Trained Fighters on Facebook. We have links to a lot of things that we talked about here today. Check us out on Twitter. It's 1700 somewhere. With that, y'all have a wonderful evening. Remember, it's always 1700 somewhere, and we'll catch you next week.